So now let's move on to the iris dataset. So first, we want to import the data. So for instance, we can use the read.csv function. And so I've saved my file as iris.csv. And I want to store my data in a variable in the data frame for iris. So first, I have to set my working directory to my source file location. And after that, I can just run this. So another way to read the data is to simply click File, Import Dataset from text-based. And if I just click on this CSV and name it as maybe iris2. So this is the data frame. So I can either read it by using the read.csv function, or alternatively, I can read it using the file function. So here I have iris2, which is what I just named it just now. So similar to a matrix, a data frame is a two-dimensional array-like structure, but it differs from the matrix in that in each column, the type of the data can be different. So you can have string in the first column, you can have integers in the second column, or floating numbers in the third columns. So let's try to explore this data set. So first, we can use class to see what type of data is iris, and we can use head to look at the first few lines of the data set. So if you want to look at the first 10 rows, then you can simply just put a comma 10, and this will give you the data of the first 10 rows. So moving on, we can also use str_iris. So this is a function which summarizes the structure of a data. So for instance, in this data set, we have 4 columns with floating number, and once the last column is species. And this is the data type, which stands for integer. So to assess this data, what we can do is, so if I want to assess this data, I can use the $sign and select sepal length, which will give me the data under this column. And we can also use the summary statistics. So the summary function provides us with the information on the distribution on each variable. So there are 50 observations for each of the 3 subseries, as we know from the information given previously. And this will give us a summary of the data we have. So individual values in the data frame can also be assessed using row and column indices. So for instance, if we do iris 3, 4, so this will give the value which lies on column 3 and row 3 and column 4. So the first input is the row number, and the second input is a column number. And if I do iris 3, comma, and I leave the value at the back blank, this will return values of row 3. And if I do iris, comma 4, this will return values of column 4. So let's try to visualize the data. So we can view the data using a box plot. So we just simply use the command box plot bracket iris, which will give us the box plot diagram under the plots section. So you can also export this data, save as image, or you can copy to clipboard to later copy paste it in Google Docs. So the second way to visualize the data is using scatter plot, which you can just call the function pass iris, and this will give us the scatter plot. And we can try to use different colors on each species by adding an additional input. So COL stands for color equals to my species. So every species, what I'm doing here is that each species will be assigned a color. So here I have 3 different species, and each of them is denoted by a different color. And also, we can also generate plots using the plot function. So we need to input the X and the Y. So for instance, let's get the data for the paddle length. We can also get the data for paddle width, and we store it in PL and PW variable. We store the species for iris holosign species. So with this, we can plot PL and PW. In addition, if you want to include different colors, you can use COL equals to species. And so you can see this figure starts to look nice as the 3 species are easily separated by color. So you can also try to put in more commands. So for instance, if you want to change the label on the X and Y variables, you want to add a title, you can always do that. So it's simply just color equals to species. If you want to change the shape, then it's PCH equals to species. And in addition, you can add X label equals to paddle length. Y label equals to paddle width. And main, which is your title, you can name it as paddle width versus length. So this will give you a nicer graph. So that's all for this video, and I hope to see you in the workshop.